Hello, I'm Scott Chait, VP of Partner Market Development at Corinth, and my colleague Joe Nickey, Senior SaaS Solutions Architect, will be showing a little bit of a demo today on how you set up a SaaS application for the AWS Marketplace using SaaSOps. The SaaSOps demo objectives today are to basically show you the specific AWS requirements that are required to put a SaaS offering in the marketplace and how you can meet those requirements using the SaaSOps platform. So what is SaaSOps? SaaSOps is a application designed for SaaS providers that provides all of the tenancy management, commercial management, and operations management that is necessary for a SaaS provider to run and operate a SaaS application. We do this in a way that is compatible with the AWS Marketplace so that registration of all the tenants and management of all the tenants can happen automatically and with a self-service capability, and that all of this can run on the cloud infrastructure on AWS as per the guidelines for the marketplace.
Okay, thank you, Scott. This is Joe Nickey, and before we get into the demo, let's take a look at steps required before we can get into the AWS Marketplace with your SaaS product. Here are some guidelines. The guidelines require that you have a landing page, basically a page where you will register an account within your SaaS application, and that the new subscriber needs to be able to access that so that they can register. You need to provide instructions. So if they won't be able to get access to their application immediately, you need to provide instructions and messaging so that they know exactly when and how they will get their application. Then when the application is ready, you must send them a notification confirming that their account has been created, and then give them next steps so that it's a smooth process for your subscribers. But there's also some architectural guidelines. All application components must be hosted in the AWS infrastructure that you manage. And this is versus deploying an AMI in the subscriber's account. Okay, so you're providing the infrastructure for the SaaS solution. The SaaS contracts must be able to call APIs, AWS APIs, to get marketplace entitlements, to register usage and metering if you're going to use metering services. Okay, and this is all the requirements that SaaSOps helps you meet, and in addition to more SaaS management features. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first step in getting ready is we need your application running in the cloud. So you're going to have an AWS environment, and that will have your application in it. Now we can support EC2 instances, Lightsail, Kubernetes, EKS, Fargate, and any other of the resources that are available in AWS, like RDS, EFS, S3. But the main thing is we start with your application running in the cloud and validate its functionality to make sure that it's running as expected. And then we'll enable through SaaSOps. Okay, step 2, you can subscribe to SaaSOps. SaaSOps is available on the AWS Marketplace, or Corinth representatives can help you get subscribed and access to SaaSOps. But here's where you're going to enable the self-service and fulfill all of the requirements that the AWS Marketplace has for SaaS offerings. So we're going to automate the process of your tenant enablement. You're going to configure your subscriber access. You're going to set up your notifications. If you're using metering, we will also set up your metering and micro billing and tiered-based billing and the ways that you want to price and sell your product. And then we're going to enable it for the AWS Marketplace and guide you to the registration page, or the subscriber to the registration page from the AWS Marketplace. And then once it's defined to the AWS Marketplace, you're ready to start selling. The marketplace is where your customers will go to purchase their SaaS solution. All payments and invoices will be handled through the AWS Marketplace, but SaaSOps will provide all of the enablement technologies and tenancy technologies and everything needed to sufficiently communicate with the marketplace and for a good, smooth experience for your subscribers. The demo. So once you subscribe to SaaSOps, you'll be taken to a login screen. In this case, the ISV is multi-SaaS, and they will log in with their user ID and password. You will be presented with a series of dashboards that handles various aspects of managing your SaaS solution. You got the SaaS operations administration, and there are a number of things we can do to customize this environment for your particular application. But let's take a look at the auto ticket application and how that was set up in SaaSOps. So I'm going to go to the auto ticket application, and I'm going to click on Modernize, and we're going to use the Marketizer workflow. This is what prepares your deployment in the AWS cloud for the AWS marketplace. So we're going to view the steps that we took here with auto ticket. Okay, at this point, your AWS account has already been set up in SaaSOps so we can access your deployments. So the first step is we will select deployments. And in this case, we got one VM here with the public IP address and the name of the VM. And what we do is a scan. And we scan the VM or the environment for the COP service to make sure that's running, and for the available RAM, CPU, hard disk space, and so forth, and the ports that are required for the SaaSOps COP service. The COP service is an agent that runs in your environment. This agent handles all the metering and monitoring and all the lifecycle scripts, that is to say, how to provision and deprovision tenants and to delete tenants and so on. So once this is done, then we move in to the next phase. So the next phase will be to determine what your provisioning method is going to be. SaaSOps supports a number of different ways to deploy your application. You can either be a single tenant application, which is typically one deployment per tenant, or you can be a multi-tenant application. Multi-tenant, as in the case with auto ticket, is where you have one instance of the application and then multiple tenants that share that one application. So let's go on to the next step. The next step is we acquire the information from your, in this case, your VM. So we get the port numbers that are open, the size of the application, and we create that blueprint so it can be reused later. Now that we got the blueprint, we create a snapshot. Then we can add scripts and configuration files. So in the scripts and configuration files, and particularly if your application is a deployment per tenant, you can add scripts. And these are scripts that are run at time of deployment. And the kinds of scripts that you can have are installation scripts, configuration scripts, initialization, validation scripts, anything you need to do to customize that VM for a specific tenant. Things like domain names or IP addresses and things that need to be set up to complete the installation of your application. The next thing we do is we set up details for tenant access. So how does a tenant access this application? So we're going to set up a URL. So in this case, it could be a IP address, but ideally you will have a domain name. And the domain name will be, in this case, it's ticket.autoticketos.com. Okay, so this has got the variable in front of it, tenant name. So you can see here the application URL in this case will be the tenant name with the domain name that's specific to AutoTicket. And then you put in a default user ID and password for the application. And then you move on to section 6. Okay, this is where you put the lifecycle scripts in. These are scripts that can be written pretty much in any scripting language that you use. But the kind of scripts that you have here are tenant create, tenant unsubscribe or delete, tenant activate, deactivate, and then subscription upgrade. So these are the scripts that do the heavy lifting of customizing and deploying and then onboarding a tenant to your application. So these scripts are written by you, the ISV, or we help write these scripts for you. We have a library of scripts that we make available to you so that we can quickly develop these things and get them loaded up. Then we go to operational setup and commercial setup. Okay. And this is where we can actually set up our subscription plans. So now we'll click on Manage Subscriptions. Okay, and this is where we set up the type of subscriptions that you want to surface in your AWS Marketplace. And you can see that AutoTicket has a number of subscriptions with different applications. But here at the top, they got 3 subscriptions here that are specifically for the AWS Marketplace. A starter subscription for $10 a month, a standard subscription for $40 a month, and an ultimate subscription for $90 a month. Let's take a look at what's involved in setting these subscriptions up. Let's look at the standard subscription plan. Okay, all that's required is that you put the plan name in here and then any information about the plan that you want to have in here in terms of what it includes. In this case, it's going to be a metered offering. So it's going to be metered by number of admin users, staff users, and number of tickets. And I'll show you that in a minute. But then you just come down here and basically give it the price, which is $10. So once that's set up, then the next thing we want to do is look at the metering. Okay, so the metering is something that's configurable. You can have multiple meters per subscription. And what you can see here is we got the starter admin metering. Okay, so that's the admin metering. This is the staff metering, and this is the tickets metering. Let's look at the tickets metering. So the tickets metering is set up so that anything over 10 tickets will be charged 10 cents per ticket. And then you can have multiples of these. You can add additional ones. So this will be, for additional fee for tickets, 10 cents. So that's how the metering's set up here. And this information, as the subscriber uses the application and they reach a threshold of tickets, that we start sending metering information to AWS so that they can be invoiced and billed for their usage in addition to their monthly cost. So let's look at the summary of this subscription. And now we can see what it looks like in the registration screen. Okay, this is what the registration screen will look like. We will show you in another video how to configure this and customize it so you can collect the information that you want to collect as part of the tenant record. But this is what they'll see when they register, and that's going to be part of the next demo. But the key things here, for the AWS Marketplace, when you set up your offerings in the AWS Marketplace, it's going to ask you for 2 things. Your SaaS URL, so you want to copy this and save it somewhere for this particular plan, and then a product resolver ID. You're going to copy those and save that, so when you go to configure your AWS Marketplace, these are the links or the information that you'll put in. Okay, I just want to take a minute here and show you where the SaaS URL and the product ID goes. So I'm in the AWS Marketplace Management Portal for AutoTicket. So if we go into AutoTicket, when you do your pricing configuration, you're going to set up a price for each one of your offerings. Okay, and here they got 3 different plans in here. So here's the API identifier. That is what you would copy from the product resolver ID from SaaSOps. And you can see he's got one for each one of his offerings. And then the next thing that you got to have is the fulfillment options. In the fulfillment options, you've got a default fulfillment URL. Okay, this URL also comes from the SaaSOps registration screen. So those are the two things you need to complete all the other information that you put into your SaaS product, and then you can complete the process there. Okay, now that we've got everything set up in SaaSOps, let's go over to the AWS Marketplace and see how to subscribe to this offering. So in the AWS Marketplace, we'll go to Discover Products and we'll search for a product. We're going to search for Auto Ticket. Okay, and here you see the Auto Ticket offering that has been created. We're going to click on Auto Ticket, and here is the overview of Auto Tickets. You can see the product overview. You can look at the various pricing options. Here we got 3 tiers, $10, $40, and $90 with some usage-based options. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here we can go now to View Purchase Options. So here you can decide how long you want to run the contract, and this is just offered on a monthly basis, and whether you want to auto-renew. Here you can select the contract options. You got the starter plan, standard plan, unlimited plan, $10, $40, $90. And note here is the metering that is actually enabled by SaaSOps, the ability to actually charge for usage. So in this case, they're charging for additional administrators or additional staff or additional tickets, and how much per additional that they're charging for. So at this point, if I subscribe to a starter plan for $10, okay, my cost is $10, and then my usage will be monitored, and the invoicing will be updated accordingly. Okay, now we're ready to subscribe. So I'll click on Create Contract. You can see here that you got to confirm your contract, which basically confirms that you're going to be charged $10, which is due today. And it's a 1-month contract, auto renew. Now at this point, I'm going to click Pay Now. And it lets you know when your service starts and stops. And I'm going to set up my account. And this is where SaaSOps comes in. It's transferring now over to SaaSOps the subscription information. SaaSOps will provide the registration. It will automate the process of provisioning the application onto your Amazon cloud, and it will now start the metering process. Okay, so let's fill out our registration page. You put a company name in. With an account name, email. Okay, address in city is optional here, so I'll skip that, come down to postal code. Okay, and we're ready to sign up for the $10 reoccurring fee monthly. I'm signing up. Okay, so at this point, SaaSOps has taken over the automation. It's going to validate our input. It's going to create an account in SaaSOps. Then it's going to actually create the subscription. At some point here, it's going to start the provisioning process. In this case, the application is a multi-tenant application. So it's one instance of the application, and each tenant has their own database schema. So the provisioning phase in here is creating a schema for the specific tenant that we just created. Okay, so we say okay. So what next? Okay, so there's a landing page here that says your subscription was successful and that you'll receive an email shortly. It will have a link to your application and a temporary user ID and password. So at this point, we wait for our email. Okay, we waited a couple minutes, and now the email is in. This notifies the tenant that their subscription is ready. Notice that we got an application URL here now, and it's specific to this tenant. Remember, we called it test case when we registered. and a password of password and username of my ticket. So if I click on this URL, okay, okay, so now we've got auto ticket running specifically for test case. This has been provisioned automatically by SaaSOps. At this point, SaaSOps notifies AWS that the subscription now has been completed and billing will begin through the AWS Marketplace.
SaaSOps enables any cloud application to become a SaaS offering on AWS Marketplace.